From the moment the sun rose, a small puppy sat frozen on the sidewalk, its eyes locked on a storm drain. Hours passed. Cars drove by, people walked past, yet the little dog refused to move. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't play, wouldn't even look away. Curious onlookers began to gather, whispering among themselves. What was keeping the puppy's attention fixed so firmly? Finally, a few men decided to investigate. With tools and effort, they pried open the heavy drain cover. What they discovered inside stunned everyone. This wasn't just about a curious puppy. It was about a secret hidden beneath the streets. One that would leave the entire crowd gasping in disbelief. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning air was calm, the streets slowly filling with the usual rhythm of life. Shopkeepers opened their doors, children hurried off to school, and traffic rolled steadily past. But amidst the noise and bustle, one small detail stood out. A German Shepherd puppy lying flat on the pavement, its eyes fixed on a storm drain. At first, no one paid much attention. Puppies were playful and curious, after all. But as the hours ticked by, the little dog never moved. He didn't chase the pigeons fluttering nearby, nor did he respond to kind strangers who offered scraps of food. His body was tense, ears pricked forward, and every so often, he would whine softly, pressing his nose against the cold metal bars. Passers-by began to notice. "Why won't he leave?" someone murmured. Another shrugged, pausing to watch. The puppy pawed at the grate, tiny claws scraping desperately, before lying back down with a low, frustrated whimper. His eyes never blinked from the darkness below, as though he knew something the humans didn't. By mid-morning, whispers began to spread. This wasn't ordinary curiosity. The puppy was guarding the drain with the determination of a soldier, standing watch as the day wore on. The puppy's unusual behavior drew more eyes. Commuters slowed their pace, some even stopping entirely to watch the little dog's stubborn vigil. He refused to budge, not even when the sun climbed higher and the pavement warmed beneath his paws. His head remained low, pressed close to the storm drain, his body tense with anticipation. That a shopkeeper from across the street stepped closer, wiping his hands on his apron. "He's been here since morning," he told the growing group of onlookers. "Hasn't moved an inch." A mother pulling her child along frowned, whispering, "Maybe there's something trapped down there." Her child tugged at her sleeve, eyes wide with worry. Soon, a small crowd had formed. Some bent down, trying to peer between the iron bars, while others tossed bits of bread or called out to lure the puppy away. But he ignored every attempt. His nose twitched against the grate, and he let out a sharp bark, startling those around him. The murmurs grew louder. People exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever had captured the puppy's attention wasn't just a shadow or a sound. It was something real, something that needed to be uncovered. By midday, the puppy's persistence had the entire street buzzing with speculation. A few men stepped forward, crouching near the storm drain. "Come on, little one coaxed, holding out a piece of meat from his lunch. The puppy sniffed briefly but turned his head back to the grate, his body lowering protectively. His refusal sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. Others tried clapping, whistling, even gently tugging at his collar. But each time he resisted, whining and scrambling back toward the drain as if tethered to it by an invisible chain. His paws scraped furiously at the iron bars, claws clicking against the metal, his tail stiff and unwavering. One boy pressed his ear to the drain cover, then shot back with wide eyes. "I heard something," he whispered. The group hushed instantly, tension thickening. Another man knelt, straining to listen. For a long moment there was only silence. Then, a faint sound. A cry? A whimper? No one could quite tell. The puppy barked sharply, confirming what everyone now feared. There was something alive down there. Gasps spread through the onlookers. "We need to open it," someone said firmly. Heads nodded in agreement. What had begun as curiosity had now shifted into urgency. Whatever the puppy was guarding, it was trapped, and time might be running out. The crowd exchanged urgent glances before several men stepped forward, determined to act. The puppy barked again, pawing frantically at the grate as if begging them to hurry. Two men grabbed the edges of the heavy iron cover and strained, their muscles tightening with effort. But the cover didn't budge. It was rusted and stuck from years of neglect. "Get a crowbar," someone shouted. A shopkeeper dashed inside and returned with a long metal bar. The men wedged it beneath the grate, grunting as they forced it upward. The puppy whined, circling anxiously, his nose pressed against the gap that slowly began to widen. The sound of screeching metal echoed through the street as the grate finally shifted. With one last push, it clattered aside, leaving a dark opening that seemed to swallow the sunlight. The crowd leaned in, hearts racing, while the puppy crouched low, staring into the shadows with unblinking eyes. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, from deep below, came a faint sound, soft, weak, but unmistakably alive. A gasp spread through the people gathered. Some covered their mouths, others stepped back in shock. The puppy barked furiously, his tail wagging with desperate urgency. Whatever was hidden inside the storm drain had been the reason for his vigil all along. And now, with the cover finally removed, the truth was about to be revealed. The street fell into stunned silence as everyone leaned closer to the open drain. The air was damp and foul, carrying the smell of rust and stagnant water. A man held his phone's flashlight over the edge, the beam cutting through the darkness below. For a heartbeat, nothing moved, only shadows shifting along the dripping walls. Then, a small cry pierced the silence. High-pitched, fragile, the puppy barked in response, tail thumping wildly, as if urging the rescuers to act faster. The beam of light caught something. A tiny hand pressed weakly against the concrete, trembling. Gasps erupted from the crowd. "It's a child," someone shouted, disbelief and horror twisting their voice. The men scrambled, shouting for rope, for help, for anything that could pull the little one out. The puppy whined urgently, his body trembling with frantic energy, as if he had been waiting all day for this moment, for humans to finally understand his cries. Another cry echoed up the drain, louder this time, proof that the child was still alive. The urgency grew unbearable. People dashed to fetch tools, others called emergency services, while more tried lowering makeshift ropes. The puppy never left the edge, barking and whining in rhythm with the child's cries. What had begun as a simple curiosity had turned into a shocking revelation. The puppy hadn't been staring into nothing. He had been guarding a life, one that would have been lost without his stubborn, loyal watch. Ropes were lowered into the drain as rescuers worked feverishly, their voices overlapping in urgency. The puppy barked and paced, his paws scraping the pavement as if pushing them to move faster. Finally, a volunteer slid down, his flashlight beam slicing through the dark. Moments later, he reappeared, cradling a small, dirt-covered child in his arms. The crowd gasped, then broke into applause, some people wiping tears from their eyes. The child's face was pale, his clothes soaked and torn, but his chest rose and fell. He was alive. The puppy leapt forward, whining loudly, licking the child's hands as though he had never doubted this moment would come. The little boy's weak fingers curled into the puppy's fur, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Paramedics rushed in, wrapping the child in blankets, checking his pulse and breathing. One of them shook his head in disbelief. "If that dog hadn't stayed here and refused to move," he said, "this boy would have never been found in time." The little girl's mother, who had been frantically searching the area, arrived in tears, collapsing into her son's arms. The puppy sat proudly beside them, his eyes calm, his mission complete. That night, the story spread everywhere, about the small puppy who refused to give up, who stared into the storm drain until the world finally listened. He wasn't just a stray anymore. He was a hero. Sometimes, courage doesn't roar. Sometimes, it comes from a small puppy's bark that refuses to be ignored.